So hi, I'm Ted,
I'm Pamela.
and we're going to do a recipe tonight. We're going to make latkes. It's the third night of Hanukkah, and that's when my family traditionally used to make latkes. We're going to use the recipe that my mother made famous. As Pam could explain to you, your camera's over there. As Pam could explain to you, her recipes were handed down by word of mouth.
Right, so how do you make latkes? You make latkes. You grate potatoes, a little onion, maybe a little something else to hold them together. I don't know, salt, pepper.
So basically, we're just going to wing it. Now, Pam has already prepared for us a onion and a knife. This is not a knife. This is a better knife. You don't want a little thing that's going to hurt you. You want to be able to work nicely. So you take your onion and cut it into small pieces. Now, they don't want to be too small, maybe a 1/4 inch plus or minus squares. And that's so that they are in there to taste, but not so big that they're obnoxious. You can make them smaller if you want them to be less obnoxious. And in fact, I'm going to use I'm going to cheat in short. You use a tiny little food processor.
I'm going to give you a bowl to put those things in.
Okay, and turn some of these into just basically a mush. The difference being that little pieces won't hold together very well. Mush combined with some kind of glue, edible glue, will hold together. So where's that little mini food processor?
It's right in front of you.
It's right in front of me. There it is. Oh, okay. This wonderful little toy came to us by courtesy of Tops Friendly Markets, who gave it to us for shopping there. You know, you buy enough stuff in a certain amount of time and they give you a free gift. It's absolutely useless in the food processor world, but you know something? For this job, it's just right. Take a little bit of onion, throw it in there. I think I'm going to take a little bit more. Now hold your ears because this is going to be really ugly.
That looks pretty good.
Okay, now the others, they're still a little bit big at the 1/4 inch, so I'm just going to do a quick bit of chopping here. First thing you learn about cooking large scale, doesn't work at home, but it's large scale. You don't worry about the little bits that fly off. Those are part of what's known as cleanup. Pam, why don't you tell the story about the professional chef that was in our kitchen one time while I do a little cleanup?
So we had, don't want to stand over there. I need to be peeling potatoes. So he wants me to talk to you rather than work on the potatoes. The chef from the Shokin Kitchen was visiting us one weekend, and he agreed to make some food. And we were talking to his family on the phone. I don't even remember what he was going to make. Some kind of chicken cutlet dish, I think.
His family.
His family. He was talking to his family, and he was, talking about cooking. And in the background, we hear his son going, "No, don't let him in your kitchen. It will be a mess." But Ted was busily working behind him, and it was okay.
Well, tell him what happened when he reached for the spoon.
Every time he turned around, the spoon he needed was already cleaned. So I'm going to work on peeling and grating potatoes. Can you hand me the grater, Ted? Thank you. Box grater, the best tool for making latkes.
Is that also known as a mandolin grater?
No, where are you going?
Let's move here so you're on the camera.
Oh, give me the compost pot.
Notice I unplugged the food processor when not in use.
Compost pot, please.
Compost pot. Pam's going to demonstrate how to peel a potato.
Oh, yeah. As if you don't know how to peel a potato.
There are different methods.
Making sure I get all the bad bits. These are purple potato, pink and red potatoes, whatever color they are, because it happened to be what we had in the house. I know some people are fussy about the potatoes for their latkes. We are not.
Last year, I think we made them with golden potatoes.
Maybe. That's probably what we had. Do we put an egg in this mix, Ted?
I
don't
think we
remember.
do, and a little flour too.
Yeah, I've got the flour over there.
This is where it starts. When my mom was doing this, she would do this all by hand, which we will do, but she really worked at it.
Now, I will say she also used the very fine side of the grater,
Yes, I'm using the really not so fine side.
which I prefer personally.
The problem is when you use this really not so fine side, it's like straw. It's not going to stick together unless you use some glue.
Where's the knife?
It's over here. That's not a knife, that's a paring utensil.
So that-
You take two of anything and you pair them together.
Right.
You can just put it down and go and do the next one. I'll just keep doing this for a while. Doing the last little bit of the potato can be a little dangerous on your fingers here. You can cut yourself. So what I'm going to do is take that last little bit and put it into the food processor. Because eventually we'll take some of those potatoes and turn them into very fine mush.
So as Ted said, this is the Sema crane recipe, straight from Vilna, I guess. So I had a conversation with somebody today, Ted.
Yeah.
About Vilna.
Really?
And we agreed that
What
it's
does
currently in Lithuania.
What's mine about Vilna?
Her grandparents are from Vilna.
No kidding.
So you guys may be kin in some way, or at least neighbors. But when I said yes, at one point it was Poland, she was like, no, that doesn't seem to make sense to me from what she knows of geography.
Well,
So-
you were right, actually. At different times while my mom was living there, which was from, the 20s and 30s into the very early 40s. It was at different times Poland, and then it became part of Germany, which was when I think she actually, her family prepared to get her out of there. And then toward the end, when Germany invaded Russia, it became part of Russia. I know it's a little hard to understand how Germany invaded Russia and then Lithuania became part of Russia. But
Is this
let's
enough
not go
potatoes
into
for now?
history.
How many? We're only making for two of us.
Yeah, we might want a little more onion, a small one.
All right, I'll go get an onion.
And she used to tell a story about every time someone talked about communism or socialism, she would tell a story about the Russians came in and they held elections once. End of story.
So
You
I'm
would
going
also
to get an egg too.
Yeah, an egg, yes. She would also use this same grater to grate horseradish. Now, let me tell you, this is nothing to do with latkes. I don't think you'd put horseradish in there. There's no accounting for taste, but I don't think you would. And she would grate the horseradish by hand using the fine side. And if you think onions make you cry, wait till you try horseradish. But I also have to say it's worth it. She made the only horseradish that was actually had some oomph to it. Does Pam have a story about that?
No, you do.
No, you do. You tell it much better than I do.
That's all
Anyway, so I grew up eating this real horseradish. It was seasonal, but it was horseradish. And my mother always was very proud about how strong it was. After all, she cried for it. And I was learning to like it. In fact, I was learning to tolerate it. In fact, I was learning to be able to eat spoonfuls of basically raw grated horseradish all at once. And shall we say, not turn red as a beet. She didn't put beets into her horseradish, it was just white. So finally, there was this one day when she had me try the horseradish. I took a spoonful of it, and she's watching me, expecting some fireworks. And they said, "Oh yeah, this is not too bad. In fact, it's kind of mild. Was there something wrong with the horseradish, or was it a little old? Why don't you try a spoonful here?" She fell for it. And then Pam came into the picture. Pam.
Yes.
And she became a witness to this. Could you tell us from your words while I'm preparing this thing to make a lot of noise?
So basically, long story short, they could play this game back and forth. I don't know, it doesn't seem very strong this year. You try it. No, you try it. And they would have a pass spoonfuls of horseradish back and forth.
And did you get sucked into this game, Pam?
No, I declined. I laughed.
Which just goes to show you there are smart people who did not grow up in Gilman. What happened to the nice dishcloths? So, there we have a special onion. We know that this is organic and it came from the CSA. Let's see. And it contains internal coloration, which, for the sake of taste, I will remove. I was going to put it in the, you have it?
Yeah, the compost.
The compost. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, a little water won't hurt it. By the way, we could do another show about knife safety. I don't know if I'm doing this safely, but I haven't cut myself lately. Notice one end of the knife always stays on the cutting board, just raising and lowering the other, tucking my fingers in when I remember to, so that it does not become, shall we say, an implement of coloration, red coloration. And you can do things pretty quickly this way if you're working on it. Let's see. Oh, the camera's probably too far away. I am actually cutting the onion on the diagonal as opposed to along the grain or across.
They brought the whole thing closer to me.
That
A
does.
little bit more.
No, it's good enough. Anyway, I don't know why I believe this, but I believe that it actually makes the onion more easy to separate once it's been cut. So here's this onion. And let's put it into the little tiny food processor, which you notice is unclogged. Don't want to get anywhere near it with my hands. That's enough there. For a bigger food processor, I put more in. Here comes the noise again. Have you ever been to Tops Markets for shopping? Well, Pam has. Have you? You ever notice that there's always only one or maybe two cashiers? Well, that made me think about a chicken and egg situation, a conundrum, what do they call it, a loop, a self-feedback loop. Are there only two cashiers because there are no customers, or are there no customers because there are only two cashiers? You've got this 50,000 or 100,000 square foot store and two cashiers. Anyway,
I will get out the pan that we usually use for.
We have a special pan that is used for only one purpose, basically not good for anything else, and that's cooking latkes. No. Oh, you want to use that one? Okay. We use this one for other things too.
Did you want?
You could show them the special pan. My mother would use this one. Yes, that one. Bring it up close to the camera so they can see it. Beautiful, flat. Well, that's the problem actually. Not so flat. Not so flat pan. You could put a layer of oil in it. You have to put enough in so that it covered the whole bottom, not just the low spots. And then you could put.
This one works just fine.
Yeah. And then you could
And
put
both
the
came from
latkes in
his
it.
dead mom, so they're both family tradition pans.
Yep. So when we moved from our old house to this one, we have to pack up the kitchen. And through, shall we say, the process of acquisition, yard sales, not too many full prices, Pam's family, my family, we had something like 19 frying pans, of which we end up using one or two. But that's the way it is. This one's chopped up a little. It helps to put the knife in. Once you take the knife out, it's effectively rendered safe. so I'm not too afraid to put my hands in it.
Are you gonna chop anything more? Shall I wash that knife?
Well, I've made it quite a mess here.
He's a good cook. That was a chef.
Well, I wasn't trained by the CIA. Pam, you're supposed to explain what that is.
I think people know.
Everybody knows what
The
CIA
food
is.
police.
The Food Police, which has its training headquarters on the Hudson, where Pam used to live, also known as.
The Culinary Institute of America.
Okay, now this is the part that you're good at.
I am.
Yeah, turning, you use your gravy skills, adding flour and egg and whatever else is necessary. And you better be very specific about the amounts. That funny noise was me washing my hands. There we go, unplug. It's pretty empty. Where'd the knife go? You got it?
Yeah, wash.
Oh, we already washed it. Yeah, yeah.
I'll pick up some of these bits here.
To quote a famous radio personality, Pamela,
Yes, sir.
dead air.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Not that it. So we've got the potato, we've got the onion, now we've got an egg. Is one egg going to be enough?
Do I remember putting some oil in it at one time?
I don't remember. I think we might need another egg.
Not in the right. Okay. Do you want a boiled egg or a regular?
I don't think there are any hard-boiled eggs, fortunately.
Oh,
And the,
none of the chickens were detectives then.
oh yes, you get Ted puns along with your cooking. That's just what happens.
Yes. By the way, this is this very fine compost pot. I do believe this is one of the few ones that no, I didn't buy this. This came from my mom. Le Creuset. She had no idea what it was. From the days when non-stick was a ceramic finish, which was non-stick unless you're willing to let it get sticky. Okay, get rid of this.
Good fresh eggs from our friend Carrie Kerr. Chickens in Wilkieville. So we've got the potato, an onion.
I'm not going to insist on
Okay.
olive oil for this purpose.
I've got the oil out already, I think.
Okay.
Someplace over there on the other counter.
Okay.
And of course, the oil is the point of the latkes.
The famous book, What Einstein Told His Cook, actually describes French fries and therefore by implication latkes as science's perfect device for transferring oil from a bottle into your body.
Science or vegetables?
No, science.
Science.
The science of cooking. Basically, potatoes just soak everything up. And remember that next time you're eating something fried.
So what, we've got about 5 potatoes in here? I was even losing track.
They were small.
And
5 potatoes.
2 onions.
2 onions, one medium large, one medium small.
2 eggs.
2
Of
eggs.
various sizes. So far, 2 tablespoons of flour. Now, I know some people use matzo meal. I don't happen to have matzo meal, so we got flour. Just enough to help bind everything together. I think you're going to want to get the
You have to clean up, yeah?
pan heating.
Okay.
And the salt and pepper.
Yes. Can we leave out the salt?
I'll just put in a little.
Okay. There's the salt.
I don't know if there's any salt in there. No,
You'll just put in a little bit.
you need
Or
salt.
the pepper. Put in more than you think on the pepper. This is one of the foods where I will not suggest putting in, for example, slap yo mama hot powder.
So,
That's not. Maybe you better put it in. Okay, let's see. Is this camera
the
working
Crane
over here?
family likes peppery foods.
And the Pamela has learned to enjoy them.
Oh, I like peppery foods, but perhaps not quite as much as the Crane family.
Now, at this point, we need to have some extra material for the cooking. One moment while I go to the recycle. Are we finished with this week's newspaper?
Yes.
Yeah, there wasn't that much in it.
You want a
Newspaper, any variety will do. Spread it out because there is going to be oil. And we also have the roll of paper towel. Another mom story. My mom had a large supply of paper towels and hand soap in her house. She always made, whenever they were on special, she bought yet another dozen rolls, or 3 or 4, whatever comes in a package of soap. And when she died, she left us a lifetime supply of soap and paper towels. This is the last of her paper towels. After how many years has it been now? 8 years?
No, it hasn't been 8. Has it?
It's been 8 years. Actually, yeah, it's been 8 years. This is the last of the supply after 8 years.
So clearly, we do not use as much paper towels. Ish.
Okay. Nice hot frying pan.
Is that enough flour?
I don't think so. Looks kind of like a coleslaw at this point. By the way, let's do the picture. I don't know if you can see this. I'll keep it in light. It does look kind of like a coleslaw, but it does not taste like it at all. This is going to be a super hot pan by the time we're ready to go.
So basically, when it comes to measuring, we do the same way his mom did. I feel.
And over here, I'm looking in our spoon drawers for the perfect spoon. Once again, yard sales, families, and potluck suppers where people didn't take their serving spoons away. Here's a nice size spoon compared to the size of my hand. That's why I don't necessarily have to use my hand to put these things in here. Oh boy, this is going to be hot.
Well, that's what you want, hot oil.
Could I take a spoon and just see how it works?
Smell and did work.
Yeah, that's about the right size. Now there's this moment when you put the potatoes into the pan. You have to do it all in one spot, all in one go. You can't later add a little bit more or anything like that. Actually, that's not looking too bad. Let me put a second one in, somewhat larger. Now, if this were my mom, she would have had the oven going, because as each layer of latkes was prepared, she put them on a pan in the oven to keep them warm. We have a somewhat different method here. You eat it right away. This is not very refined. No manners involved. You just eat it. And what do you eat them with? Pamela, can you bring the...
Working on it.
Oh, she's working on it. The most important eating them with, I'm not talking about forks and knives. That's up to you. Your hands work, but it's messy. Is the sour cream.
And the apples.
And the applesauce. Sometime Pam will put together a video of how to make applesauce. In short, cut, boil, can it. We do not use sugar. The apples are so wonderful by themselves. But sour cream, applesauce, what else could go on them? Jam.
You like jam on your latkes?
Well, some people do. I just, it's not my thing, but, oh, here they go. This is just a matter of time now. me get the other camera. Give you a close-up of the pan here. There we go. By the way, you might be wondering what this collection of jars is. I'll go in a little closer. Once upon a time, they were garlic containers. They go back to my years working in Puerto Rico. There we go. Working in Puerto Rico, where the food became, I mean, it was a real treat. They had some really great food there. But over time, I became very hungry for fresh vegetables and for flavors. Let's do a quick flip here. Notice brown, that's fried. Which one did I do second? It slides around partly because it's a non-stick pan, but mostly because it's all coated with grease. So they didn't have a lot of vegetables and whatnot or flavors. So I was using an awful lot of pepper to make the food a little tastier. And eventually I started taking down jars of garlic to Puerto Rico, put a jar or two in my suitcase every time I traveled down. And once the jar was empty of garlic, well, remember I mentioned putting pepper on the food. This nice restaurant would be supplying me with little dishes of cracked pepper. This is coarsely ground, but the other ones are actually cracked peppercorns, which I would, well, once they'd given it to me, they couldn't take it back in the kitchen, so I would pour it into the little pepper jar, and I got myself a lifetime supply of pepper over the course of years. How's this thing doing?
I don't know, but is it time to eat the soup?
Oh, did you mention the soup? Oh, bring the soup, definitely. Another traditional food item for the season, actually at any season. Here's a pan. There we go. My mother's cabbage soup recipe, as interpreted by the ever-inventive Pamela. How would you describe this one?
It's sort of a Jewish sweet and sour soup.
You shred the cabbage, mix it, put a little tomato in there. What else?
There's only 5 ingredients in this soup. Cabbage, tomato sauce, raisins.
More raisins than you think possible.
Onion, sour salt.
And sour salt.
So I would ask Seema, how do you make your cabbage soup? This is the way I got a recipe. Well, you take a head of cabbage. How big a head? Not too big. Small, medium-sized head of cabbage. Grated fine.
By hand.
Cook that with tomato sauce. How much tomato sauce? A can. Like a 16-ounce can? No, too much. A small can. A small can of tomato.
Yeah.
Raisins. How many raisins? Quite a few. Quite a few. So what is that? We, I think, have gotten up to about a cup of raisins in the soup. And then
It is worth mentioning that my mother would throw in some soup bones, but it works quite well without them.
Then an apple, you chop it up, cook that in, and some sour salt, which for those who don't do Jewish cooking.
Citric acid, if you're a chemist. Looks like big crystals of salt.
There's a okay. I don't know how to pronounce this word.
Well, rokeach is how they'd say it in New York.
Rokeach. Sour salt, and maybe used for Passover, and it's basically citric acid. And I found that in the amount of cabbage soup I make, about a teaspoon is enough. Otherwise, it gets too sour.
And
You can put this on a fire instead. And then the important instruction was you cook it for a long time over a low fire.
how long?
a long time, but all day.
And by the way, have you substituted lately one kind of cabbage for another?
Well, we only had Napa cabbage
Yeah.
rather than the regular cabbage, and we find it works just fine.
It does taste a little different, but it works just fine, really.
Those, in my opinion, those latkes look a little underdone.
On that side,
Oh, okay.
but they are done through because of the other side. Why don't you put it on a plate and we'll hold it up to the camera.
Ah.
Let me get a plate. The blue plate.
You can do that.
Yeah, the light's not quite as good. Cool.
Actually, it could stand a little more.
Okay. Next one, a little more. Oop. Let's see, is the lighting good enough to show it on this camera? No. Let's try the lighting on this camera. Ah. There we go. And now would you like to, I'm going to set it down here and you can prepare it with the add-ons.
Oh, I was gonna,
Where are we going to?
I've got everything on the table. I
Yeah,
thought
but
maybe
there's
we
no
would just-
camera on the table.
I thought we could just take the camera over there once the table is set.
Oh, okay. Here we go. Take it over to the table.
No.
This is our high-tech table. You can tell we talk to each other a lot during meals. Each of us has their own laptop and there's one spare. I haven't planned this shopping thing. That is the cat. And the back is the menorah, including one of my mother's huge collections of matte paper matches. For decades, any restaurant she went to, and we had matches from lots of restaurants, she collected a match book or two. Back here, let's see, this is looking quite brown on the bottom. You can't see it too well on the camera, but I can. There we go. Nuts. Why do I smell fish oil? Not a good sign. I'll turn this down. This is one of these modern stoves. It has this dial marked from 1 to 10. And from 10 down to about 4, nothing happens. From 4 to 2, a little bit happens. Between 2 and low, that's where it all happens. There we go. Off camera, the two felines are being fed. They're expensive and very tasty food, so they won't try to join us for dinner. Oh, wait a minute. Perhaps it's on camera. Can we see this? No.
Good.
Just as well. At this point, I can't really, Pam is not watching, so I can't really resist the opportunity to try this. Well, it could have worked.
Anything that goes with, it could have worked in the kitchen. I don't know.
It's all sanitary and sterilized by fire.
Is that soup getting hot? Give it a stir maybe?
Yeah, I will. That's what COVID has been good for. I started off being afraid of trying to flip things. Now I almost succeed some of the time. Take a look at the soup. Invaluable cooking accessory, the plastic Chinese soup spoon. Doesn't scratch non-stick surfaces. Can be used for tasting, stirring, and since they're usually fairly inexpensive, you can use them one after another, throw them in the kitchen, in the sink to be cleaned up, and move on. Let's just bring this over. Ooh, that camera has moved away and I can't do it. You can't see this soup. It's the most tasty soup. And naturally, it has to be eaten with sour cream.
And applesauce.
And applesauce. I don't. Good. That tastes like potato chips. You know. Can you see anything?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you tilt the pan towards the camera, they'll be able to see it pretty well. I think.
Not really. Not really. So why don't you head for the table and
Like menorah?
prepare one? No, prepare the sour cream. I hope the noise isn't too obnoxious. I turned on the exhaust fan. Let's see what it looks like. Pretty good looking. Now that is a serving that maybe 6 to 9 of those is enough to fill you up. Okay. Why don't you go for the lens? There we go. Let's get this ready for another load of potatoes.
So we just don't worry about the. Excuse me.
There we go. Let's go over to the table. Do you have another blue plate there? Hold up the blue plate. We'll leave that one to continue cooking.
We don't need to have this one the whole time.
No, but we have to do the obligatory pleasure shot. This is back in elementary school. At lunchtime, we would wheel out the TV on the stand, and put
Sorry for my hand in front of the cooking shop.
Really, really good. And you have to make your explanation of the light as well.
First,
Oh, what do you know?
poison sparkling apple juice. Oh, it's
But it's actually, if you read the label,
poison grape juice.
yes, with, I had put on board with something else. Concord grape flavor. So I guess it had Concord and grapes and some flavor. So I can't really duplicate. Let me do a moving shot here. I'm gonna go around. There we go. Next, spreading the sour cream. No harm. Now watch the expression of indescribable pleasure she puts into that freshly cooked potato latte with sour cream. Really good. And there we have it, folks. My mom's potato latkes as interpreted